Time to fix things. Time to heal what felt broken. Time to find her way back to the love she once knew. But instead, she found something else, a letter. A letter filled with goodbyes, written 2 months too soon. Have you ever felt the ground shift beneath you while you were still smiling, still hoping? Have you ever realized that the person you love has already packed up their heart long before they ever packed a suitcase? This is not a story about anger. It is not even a story about betrayal. It is a story about knowing that the end is coming and still choosing to love bravely, to stand in the quiet ache of it without falling apart. Stay with me, because sometimes the most powerful kind of strength is learning to say goodbye long before anyone else does. Let's begin. Hannah and Jason met when they were both still trying to figure life out. Shared cheap dinners, Sunday mornings filled with coffee, and quiet plans for a future they had not yet built. They grew up together, side by side, laughing, dreaming, promising each other forever in small, unspoken ways. But sometimes people grow, and sometimes they grow apart. At first, it was little things. Jason working later, texts answered with one-word replies, fewer hugs that lingered just a little too long. Hannah noticed. Of course she did, but she told herself that love was not supposed to feel like fireworks every day, that real love was steady, patient. Until the evening, everything shifted. She was looking for a phone charger. Jason always left them tangled in his desk drawer, and there, buried under old receipts, takeout menus, and half-used notebooks. She found it, a letter folded carefully, her name written at the top. Curiosity bloomed first. Was it a love note? A surprise. Hannah unfolded it, and the words hit harder than anything she had prepared for Jason's handwriting, neat, deliberate. Thanking her for loving him, apologizing for growing distant, telling her not that he was leaving today, but that he would leave. In 2 months, after finding a new place, after figuring out how to explain it, after he could step away cleanly. Hannah stood there in the dim kitchen light, heart pounding, reading the words of a goodbye she was not supposed to find yet. She sat at the kitchen table, letter trembling in her hands, rereading every line, every apology, every soft excuse. Realizing that Jason had already left her emotionally, long before he ever packed a bag. That night, she put the letter back exactly where she found it, said nothing. She smiled at him the next morning, made coffee, laughed at a silly joke he made, but inside she was packing up her heart carefully, quietly, so that when the final day came, the day Jason thought he would surprise her with his decision, she would already be ready, already gone in all the ways that mattered. Because sometimes, heartbreak does not break you all at once. Sometimes it teaches you how to let go one piece at a time. Some heartbreaks are sudden. They arrive like a storm, loud, violent, impossible to ignore. But some heartbreaks are quieter. They creep into your life slowly through half-hearted hugs, distracted conversations, and goodbyes, written long before they are spoken. Hannah's story is not about betrayal. It is about the slow unraveling of something beautiful, something that neither person knew how to hold on to. Anymore, Jason's letter was not filled with cruelty. It was filled with sadness and quiet regret. And maybe that is what makes it hurt even more, because sometimes it is easier to move on from anger than it is to move on from sorrow. We often imagine heartbreak as a sudden moment, a slammed door, a final argument. But for many of us, heartbreak comes in a slow fade, a soft goodbye that starts months before we are ready to hear it. Hannah's strength was not in pretending everything was okay. It was in recognizing the truth, feeling it, carrying it, and still choosing to move forward with grace. She did not confront Jason with the letter, because she understood something most people take a lifetime to learn. Closure is not something you drag out of someone else. Closure is something you give yourself in the way you choose to prepare your heart, in the way you let yourself mourn, in the way you decide to love yourself, even as someone else is preparing to leave. Hannah teaches us that heartbreak is not just about what happens to us. It is about how we choose to carry it, with anger or with dignity, with bitterness or with quiet strength. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to keep loving your life even when you know it is about to change forever. Now let us listen to what the Reddit community had to say about Hannah's story, because sometimes when you hear the reflections of others, you realize you are not alone in how quietly, how deeply heartbreak can reshape a life. Before the goodbye wrote, "The worst kind of heartbreak is knowing someone has already let go, but still pretending you have time." 4K likes. This comment captures so much of the silent grief Hannah endured. It is not just the leaving that hurts. It is living in the space between what was and what you know is already gone. Oh, Grace, in silence, wrote, "Finding out early does not make it hurt less. It just teaches you how to mourn while they are still smiling at you." 7K likes, so true. Sometimes knowledge is not power. It is simply an early invitation to grieve alone silently while pretending everything is still whole. Let Go quietly wrote, "It takes unbelievable strength to love someone fully while secretly preparing your heart for the day they will no longer be yours." 2K likes. This is real courage. Loving without bitterness, even as you brace for impact, is a kind of bravery that most people never even recognize. Empty Drawer wrote, "Sometimes the goodbye happens long before the person actually leaves. You just have to find the strength to stay kind anyway." 5K likes. Such a gentle truth. Staying kind when your own heart is breaking is not weakness. It is the purest kind of strength. Brighter. Endings wrote, "Healing does not start when they leave. It starts when you realize you are strong enough to survive it." 9 likes. This is the heart of Hannah's journey. Her healing did not wait for Jason to walk away. It began the moment she chose herself, quietly, courageously. Reading these comments reminds us that heartbreak may bend us, but it does not have to break us. That in the quiet spaces of grief, we find a stronger version of ourselves. Have you ever known the end was coming, but chose to stay kind until the very last moment? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters here. He gave me a gift the day before his wedding. Reddit. Love story time. Welcome back to the channel. Some goodbyes do not happen in a single moment. They stretch across time, across conversations that still feel tender, across memories that refuse to fade. Tonight's story is about Sophia, a woman who thought she had closed a chapter neatly, bravely, until the past came knocking again. Not with a fight, not with regrets, but with a small request. A simple favor from a man she once loved deeply, on the eve of a life he was about to start without her. Have you ever thought you had moved on, only to realize in one breathtaking moment that some pieces of love linger longer than we want them to? Have you ever stood face to face with someone you once dreamed a future with, and realized that the most powerful thing you could offer them was not another chance, but a gentle goodbye? This is not a story of stolen kisses or secret confessions. This is a story about honoring what was without holding on to what will never be. Stay with me. Because sometimes love does not end with anger. It ends with grace. And sometimes that grace is the bravest love of all. Let's begin. Sophia met Liam at a bookstore. He was in the poetry aisle. She was searching for travel guides. Somehow their worlds collided, and neither of them wanted to walk away. Their love grew out of simple things: Sunday mornings at farmers' markets, road trips with no maps, whispered dreams on rooftops under borrowed stars. For 4 years, they built something that felt unshakable. But life has a way of testing even the strongest foundations: jobs in different cities, plans that no longer lined up, words that once felt soft, slowly sharpening at the edges. They broke up quietly, not because they stopped loving each other, but because sometimes love is not enough to keep two people moving in the same direction. They promised to stay friends, and mostly they did. A few polite texts on birthdays, occasional updates about new jobs, a careful distance, safe, predictable. Until one evening, 2 days before Liam's wedding, Sophia's phone buzzed. Message. Short, nervous. Can you meet me, please, just for a moment? Against the better advice echoing in her mind, she agreed. They met at the park, the same park where their story had begun. Liam stood there, hands tucked in his jacket pockets, rocking slightly on his heels. He looked not like a man about to get married, but like someone carrying the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. He handed her a small box. No grand speeches, no dramatic confessions, just a simple offering, and a cracked smile inside was a delicate silver necklace, a tiny compass pendant. Sophia felt her heart ache, remembered how they used to joke that no matter where life took them, they would always find their way back to each other. I bought it months before we broke up, Liam said quietly. I never got to give it to you. Sophia held the box gently, feeling the weight of everything they had been and everything they would never be. She looked up at Liam, saw the man she had loved and the man she was finally ready to let go of. She closed the box slowly, placed it back into his hands. Some gifts, she whispered, belong to the past. Liam nodded, eyes shining with unshed tears. They hugged, a real hug, not a desperate grasp, not a plea to stay, but a quiet thank you for what they were, for what they would always be. And then Sophia turned and walked away, leaving behind a love that had been real, that had been beautiful, but that no longer needed to be carried into tomorrow. Some endings do not come with slammed doors or angry last words. Some endings come softly wrapped in gratitude and sealed with one final goodbye that feels more like a blessing than a wound. Sophia's story is not about betrayal. It is about honoring what was while bravely letting go of what will never be. Liam's gesture, giving her the necklace, was not a ploy to reopen old wounds. It was a quiet acknowledgement of the love they shared and the respect he still carried for it. Sometimes we forget that love can be real and still not be right, that two people can hold beautiful memories together and still walk separate paths with grace. Sophia could have held on to that necklace as a token, as a maybe, as a what if, but instead she chose herself. She chose to hand it back, not out of anger, not out of pride, but because she understood something powerful. Some gifts are not meant to travel with us into the next chapter. Some love stories are meant to live only in the past. And that is not failure. That is grace. Sophia reminds us that true healing is not forgetting the love we shared. It is honoring it, loving it for what it was, and gently releasing it when it is no longer ours to hold. Not every love story ends in forever, but every love story leaves us better, stronger, more capable of loving ourselves and others. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to stand at the edge of a love you once thought was endless and walk away, smiling because you are grateful for every step of the journey. Now let us take a moment to hear the voices from the Reddit community. Because sometimes in the quiet reflections of strangers, we find echoes of our own courage, our own grief, and our own beautiful endings. Still, Finding Peace wrote, "The strongest goodbyes are not loud. They are soft and full of gratitude for what was." 3K likes. This comment captures Sophia's journey perfectly. It is easy to leave in anger. It is much harder and braver to leave with a heart still full of respect and kindness. Schnackumpesin. My heart wrote, "Letting go does not mean you never loved. It means you loved deeply enough to know when it is time to release." Likes, such a beautiful truth. Sophia's story shows us that real love is not proven by how tightly we hold on, but by how gently we can let go when the time comes. Before tears. The Vows wrote, "It takes real maturity to stand in front of the past and choose peace over regret." 9.6 likes. This comment hits home. Maturity is not about pretending the past never mattered. It is about honoring it, thanking it, and choosing not to let it hold you hostage. Quiet Goodbye wrote, "Some gifts are meant for memories, not for futures." Sophia gave herself the best gift of all, closure. 1K likes. So powerful. Closure is not something we beg for. It is something we create in the moment. We decide to value our peace over our longing. Moving. With Grace wrote, "Real love is not proven by holding on. Real love is proven by letting someone go with a blessing in your heart." 9K likes. This is the core of Sophia's story. She did not hold on to Liam. She blessed him, wished him well, and chose herself without bitterness. And that is a kind of love that never fades. Reading these comments reminds us that endings can be beautiful. That sometimes the greatest act of love is to let someone go. Not because the love was not real, but because it was. Have you ever let someone go, not out of anger, but out of love? Share your story in the comments. Your voice matters here. She forgot to remove me from the guest list. Reddit. Love story time. Welcome back to the channel. They say closure comes with time, but sometimes closure arrives sealed in an envelope written in a handwriting you used to know by heart. Tonight's story is about Ben, a man who thought he had made peace with the past, thought he had tucked away the memories carefully, folded them neatly into drawers he no longer opened, until one afternoon when the past came back, not through a late-night call, not through a chance encounter, but through a simple piece of mail, an invitation to a future he was never meant to be part of. Have you ever stumbled across something so familiar, so innocent, that it cracked open an ache you thought had long healed? Have you ever realized that sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones that look like invitations? This is not a story about anger or jealousy. It is a story about memory, about love that once was, about names written from habit, even after hearts have learned to let go. Stay with me, because sometimes closure does not come from tearing up the past. It comes from reading it carefully, smiling softly, and choosing not to walk back into it. Let's begin. Ben and Rachel had a life together. Not just weekend dates, not just fleeting moments. A real life. They built furniture together, named a stray cat together, dreamed about a tiny house near the beach where they could grow old together. But sometimes love is not a straight line. It curves, it splinters. It becomes two people looking at the same future and realizing they want different things. Their breakup was not a war. It was a slow, aching conversation that stretched over weeks, dividing up the furniture, the bills, the silent hopes they no longer shared. Ben moved out, took the old couch, left the coffee maker she loved, and life went on. Months passed. The mutual friends stopped mentioning her name as often. Ben stopped checking her social media. Slowly, he built a life that no longer had her laughter echoing in it. Until one afternoon, a trip to the mailbox, a handful of bills, a thick cream envelope, his name written on the front in a handwriting he would recognize anywhere. His breath caught. A part of him, small and foolish, wondered if it was a letter, a note, something personal. But when he opened it, it was not personal. It was an invitation, Rachel and Daniel inviting him to celebrate their forever. The date, 2 months from now. The venue, a garden by the cliffs. The words filled with warmth, with hope. Ben sat on his porch, invitation in hand, feeling the strange weight of being remembered and forgotten all at once. He knew deep down it was a mistake. Rachel had not meant to send it. Not really. His name was still there, out of habit, out of muscle memory. A slip of the hand, not a slip of the heart. Ben could have laughed, could have texted her, could have made a joke. But he didn't. He sat quietly, and after a long while he checked the box marked regrets, sealed the RSVP envelope and mailed it back. Because some invitations are not meant to be accepted. Some moments are not meant to be relived. And sometimes moving on means letting a piece of your past slip quietly through your fingers without chasing after it. Some heartbreaks are loud. They leave with slammed doors, screaming, matches, final words thrown like knives. But some heartbreaks are quiet. They leave through small mistakes, forgotten names, invitations sent by muscle memory, not by intention. Ben's story is not about betrayal. It is about the tender remnants of love, about the way endings can linger in the corners of our lives long after we think we have swept them clean. Rachel's invitation was not a cry for attention. It was a ghost, a whisper of what used to be. And Ben, he could have chosen anger. He could have chosen sadness. But he chose grace. He understood that some parts of our past deserve to be honored, not reopened. Moving on is not about pretending the past did not happen. It is about acknowledging it, letting it live where it belongs, and gently choosing not to carry it forward into places it no longer fits. Ben's decision to RSVP, no quietly, respectfully, was not an act of bitterness. It was an act of self-respect, of self-love. Because sometimes protecting your peace means knowing when not to show up, knowing when an invitation is not really meant for you. Even when your name is written there in handwriting you once thought you would see for the rest of your life. Healing is not always loud. Sometimes healing is sitting on a porch, feeling the weight of a memory, letting it pass through you, and then letting it go without trying to grab it back. Ben's story reminds us that closure does not always arrive in big conversations or neat endings. Sometimes closure is a quiet decision made in the soft spaces of the heart. To choose yourself, even when part of you still remembers the way it used to feel, to be chosen by someone else. Now, let us listen to what the Reddit community had to say about Ben's story. Because sometimes in the quiet wisdom of strangers, we find reflections of our own heartbreaks, our own healing, and our own silent victories. Silent Goodbye wrote, Healing is not about erasing memories. It is about learning when to leave them unopened. 2K likes. This comment captures Ben's journey perfectly. Healing is not about pretending the past did not happen. It is about knowing when to let old doors stay closed. Oh, forgotten. Names wrote, "Sometimes your name stays on a list because you mattered once, not because you still do." 6K likes. So true. Ben's name was written out of habit, out of a muscle memory that had not caught up with the heart. And that realization carries a sadness, but also a strange kind of peace. Our graceful exit wrote, "There is a quiet dignity in declining invitations to places where your heart no longer belongs." 1K likes. Beautifully said. Ben chose dignity. He chose to protect his peace, even when a part of him still recognized the handwriting on the envelope. Bittersweet. And wrote, "Not all memories are meant to be relived. Some are meant to be smiled at and left exactly where they are." 8K likes. This comment feels so true. Ben did not tear up the invitation. He did not rage against the past. He simply smiled quietly and chose to leave the memory untouched. Carrie lightly wrote, "The hardest part of moving on is not forgetting. It is learning to carry the memory without letting it weigh you down." 7 likes.